today we're digging into something pretty fascinating. This intersection of ancient history and, well, cutting-edge code.
Yeah, we're looking specifically at a narrative synopsis called Gates' Incan Artifact and the Coding Revolution.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to analyze this story, not just, as a story, but almost like a blueprint.
That's a good way to put it. It's a fictional tale, we should stress that, but it's clearly inspired by real-world global outreach efforts.
Yeah.
We want to kind of dissect how the author imagines fusing cultural preservation with tech innovation.
Right, extracting the key bits, the components, but maybe more importantly, the message underneath it all. For you, the listener, the source is this synopsis about a fictional Gates Foundation trip.
Uh-huh.
But using that framework,
Mm.
Bill Gates, this global tech figure, that tells you something about the story's aims right away.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Framing it as a Gates quest, it gives it immediate, credibility, doesn't it? Sets the stage for a story about big, scalable change.
Yeah, it makes you think, okay, maybe this could happen.
Yeah, exactly. The author wants you to believe this kind of transformative project is possible.
Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint then. The hook is, well, it's pretty specific. Story kicks off in 2020, Peru.
Right?
And there's this discovery of an ancient artifact that the synopsis claims completely shifted how people thought about tech education. Globally.
A big claim.
Huge claim. So let's start there with that catalyst in Peru. The narrative sets it up. Gates Foundation, fictional trip, 2020.
And the timing, 2020, is interesting, isn't it? A moment when, global connectivity, remote everything suddenly became absolutely critical.
Yeah, it kind of primes the pump for this sort of tech-based solution story.
Precisely. It provides a sort of perfect backdrop for this extraordinary quest, as you called it.
So the specific catalyst, this is where it gets really interesting for me. It wasn't some new gadget.
No, not at all. It was an ancient Incan counting device. That's the spark. An ancient tool for calculation inspiring a modern tech education idea.
Okay, hold on. An Incan counting device,
Mm-hmm.
like a quipu maybe.
Mm-hmm.
How does that spark ideas about, Python or JavaScript?
Well, the connection the narrative makes is symbolic, yes, but also pretty technically insightful when you think about it.
Go on.
Ancient counting systems, like the Incan ones, weren't just simple tallying. They were often highly systematic. Think Bayesian math, logical structures, modularity.
Like early data structures.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. When we talk about coding today, we're still dealing with logic, efficiency, organizing data. The story is basically suggesting a direct line that the logic embedded in this ancient tool can inform how we teach coding now.
Wow. So the artifact isn't just like a museum piece to be scanned and archived.
No, the narrative elevates it. It becomes almost like firmware, or maybe source code is a better analogy, for a whole new way of teaching.
The past is firmware for the future. I like that.
And by integrating the principles of that device into the curriculum, the learning becomes immediately relevant, culturally grounded. It's not just abstract Silicon Valley stuff anymore.
It's indigenous mathematics, recognized and valued.
Exactly.
Okay, so the story moves fast from that aha moment. The synopsis outlines this immediate, crucial partnership. Bill, the character, partners with a fictional indigenous coder, Elena.
Right, and this partnership feels like a really critical step in the narrative's recipe for success. It can't just be the outsider bringing the tech.
No, it has to be co-created. Elena represents that vital local expertise, the cultural context, making sure the tech serves the community, doesn't just override it. And the thing they create together is a mobile app. Now, the synopsis presents this as the perfect solution because it has this dual purpose.
Yeah, this is key. Purpose 1, preserve essential cultural knowledge.
Right. And purpose 2, teach modern coding skills at the same time.
It sounds almost too perfect, doesn't it? The ideal sustainable development project, all wrapped up in an app.
It really does. If you connect that to the bigger picture, like the narrative seems to want us to, the app becomes this model for heritage globalization, maybe.
That's a great term for it. Heritage globalization. It implies that learning future skills actually reinforces local culture rather than eroding it, which is, often the fear with modernization.
But hang on, how deep does that synergy actually go in the story? Is it just like the app has a section on culture and another on coding? Or is it more integrated?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The synopsis implies a much deeper integration.
How so?
It suggests the coding part actually uses the Incan concepts, maybe teaching base 8 math derived from the counting device before moving to standard programming logic, or using Quipu-like patterns to explain data structures.
Ah, okay. So the
Yeah.
cultural knowledge isn't just theme dressing, it's the actual teaching language, the foundation.
Exactly. The local system of calculation becomes the metaphor, the structure, for the coding lessons. You learn data arrangement by understanding traditional record-keeping first.
That makes the narrative's big question much clearer. Can technology serve both the past and the future?
And this story answers with a definite yes, but crucially, only if it's done through that deep co-creation, with someone like Elena involved.
Right, so elegant design, strong partnership,
Yeah.
but the narrative doesn't make it too easy. It includes a bump in the road.
Essential, really. For credibility, there's resistance.
Yeah, skeptical elders in the community. Despite this seemingly brilliant idea, there's friction.
And that feels very real. Innovation, especially tech innovation touching on culture, almost always meets some resistance. It's not necessarily about the tech itself, but maybe the fear of dilution.
Fear of losing something important. That inviting this external thing in is the first step towards, I don't know, cultural collapse.
Precisely. Deep-seated, understandable fears.
Okay, so how does the narrative resolve this? This is maybe the most interesting part for me. Bill's method wasn't throwing money at it or bringing in more tech people.
No, it was personal. Historical, even. He shares his own story.
Specifically about the massive doubt and skepticism he faced back in the early days of Microsoft.
Now, that is a fascinating narrative choice. We really need to unpack that. Why use a story about, early Microsoft struggle as a business tech venture to address cultural skepticism about an educational app in Peru?
They seem like totally different worlds, don't they? Commercial risk versus what feels like existential cultural risk.
Completely different contexts. You imagine an elder worried about ancestral knowledge? Do they really care about Microsoft's market share in the 1970s?
It feels like a massive leap. How does the story make that connection work?
Well, I think the narrative isn't asking us to connect the content of the doubts. It's asking us to connect the psychology.
The psychology, how do you mean?
The raw experience of having an idea you believe in profoundly, something potentially world-changing, and being told, no, that's crazy, it'll fail.
Ah, so Bill isn't positioning himself as the billionaire benefactor here.
No, he's positioning himself as the guy who was once ridiculed for trusting a radical idea. He's trying to connect on that shared emotional ground, risk-taking, facing down skepticism.
So the story is suggesting that vulnerability, sharing past failure, that can bridge huge cultural and economic divides.
That seems to be the implication. That overcoming that initial, maybe crushing skepticism, whether it's about a tech startup or a community project, it creates a different kind of bond.
It suggests that maybe effective persuasion, especially in these complex cross-cultural projects, isn't about showing your power or resources.
But about showing your humanity, your own history of struggle.
Yeah, that's the core message there, it seems.
But we should also probably ask, does the story fully grapple with the power imbalance that still exists? Even a vulnerable Bill Gates is still Bill Gates.
And that's the fair point. The narrative uses this vulnerability moment to kind of neatly resolve the conflict. Does it feel maybe a bit too neat?
It could be seen that way. The fictional implication is that once that trust gap is bridged through empathy, the power difference becomes less threatening. The elders supposedly now trust the intention behind the resources.
Okay, so the resources become a tool for the community, not a threat to it, in the story's logic.
That's the idea presented, which makes the leadership lesson for you, the listener, even sharper. Maybe prioritize building personal trust over just presenting a technically perfect solution.
Right. Okay, so moving towards the wrap-up in the synopsis, it paints a picture of clear success.
Yes, the app works. The one linking Incan systems and modern code. It reportedly empowers the community, protects their heritage.
And actually ends up globalizing their heritage through the tech, which is kind of the opposite of the initial fear.
It flips the script. And that success then becomes the argument for the whole model, that real scalable development needs this kind of deep cultural integration. The local artifact becomes the engine for a global idea.
And the story ends with this expansive vision, Bill funding similar projects all over the world.
Scaling the model. Peru wasn't just a one-off. It was the proof of concept.
Proof of concept for a global revolution in culturally sensitive tech education, essentially.
So tying it back to those two core themes, cultural preservation and innovation, the narrative strongly argues they aren't opposing forces.
No, it suggests Sustainable success requires weaving local heritage right into the tech solution itself. The tech isn't the answer on its own.
It's just the delivery mechanism, maybe the most effective one today, for that deep, culturally relevant knowledge.
Okay, let's quickly recap the key bits we've walked through from this narrative blueprint. We started with that specific catalyst, the ancient Incan counting device in Peru,
Seeing its underlying logic as fundamental programming firmware.
which led to the essential partnership with Elena, the Indigenous coder, co-creation.
Yep. And the development of that dual-purpose app using culture as the curriculum for coding.
And then that really crucial turning point, using Bill's personal history, his Microsoft doubt story, to overcome the elders' skepticism and build trust.
Right. And that specific point, the resolution strategy, leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on.
Okay.
If we take the narrative structure seriously, if the most critical moment, the hinge upon which the entire project's success turned, was using a founder's personal story of doubt to win trust, what does that really suggest about the actual measurable role of vulnerability and maybe even shared failure in driving successful, globally adaptive tech innovation? Is that the secret ingredient we usually overlook?
Is vulnerability the key to unlocking trust for innovation, especially across cultures? That is definitely something to mull over. Thank you for diving deep with us today.